Hi, I'm Jibran. This is my 997 GTS, and a fun fact is that someone has asked me to buy my license plate. Should I not say that it's a fun fact? I bought an ND Miata after blowing up my 996 at the track, and it was just a little too boring. My least favorite is the shifter. It's just not as good as that Miata. My favorite is the way that it sounds.
So we are in the 997 GTS now, and we're going to answer some viewer questions that I got from my Facebook and Instagram page. Goodness, this car is fun. And the first question I have for you, because you just pulled for a while, and this Toyota Sienna is pulling over for us. What a shock.
So nice.
What is redline on this car? How fun is this?
It's about 7,200 RPM.
Nice.
It's pretty good. It's not bad.
And it's a 3.8 liter, right?
Yes.
3.86. Sweet. And it sounds really good with the stock sport exhaust.
Yeah.
It could be a little bit louder though, and I think that's kind of one of your plans for it, right?
Yeah, I think at some point Sharkworks bypass exhaust is probably a really good idea.
Yes,
maybe like the
idea.
Fister mod. Just a little more noise, a little more crackle.
Mm-hmm.
My last 996 had the Fister exhaust, and it just had this really great crackle off throttle. It was nice.
Yeah, that pop with the runoff is awesome. So you mentioned you had a couple cars before this, and picked this up a few months ago, right?
Yeah, I think I've had it a few months now.
Yeah. So the question is, for the price of a GTS, first you went manual. So did you have to decide manual over PDK, or was it just like no way you're going PDK?
I realize at some point in my life I'll probably end up getting a fun car that's an automatic. But I tried a lot of things when I was looking at this that were automatics. I had a 4C for a weekend, and I really liked that car, but the automatic was just a little bit boring. It's still good, really great. I think a lot of people have complaints about that car, but it was good. But I just feel like as long as I can, I'm going to have a 6-speed for my fun car.
Nice.
It's just more fun.
Cool, yeah. And so you have a fun car and you have a daily too?
Yeah. Well, I drive this pretty frequently. Outside of days where I'm sitting in a lot of traffic or there's a lot of rain. And then my other cars, I have a Toyota Tacoma.
So let's get into a viewer question real quick. So how does it compare to the 996 that you had, just overall as an experience of a handling car?
It's very similar. My 996 had the exhaust mod. It was on coilovers. It was much more track oriented, and I tracked that car a lot. It had a giant GT3 spoiler.
Nice.
And that car was a ton of fun to drive. It was a little bit less comfortable. This car has a lot of, I don't track this car like I track that one. And so this car is just a little bit more comfortable on the road. The suspension has settings. It's nice to be able to turn the exhaust off when my wife and I are on long road trips. It's nice that it tells me things like tire pressure and when the front lid is open. So there's a lot of little things about this car that are just really nice.
Yeah.
That sort of add up to a much better package.
Since the 991 was out when you picked this up, why not go base or maybe S991 7-speed manual?
Honestly, I didn't ever consider it. I haven't actually driven a 991 yet. I'd really like to. Mostly I liked the fact that this car is a little bit more special, a little bit more unique than a 991 base.
Yeah.
And I didn't need all the tech. This was a really big jump from my 996.
Right.
And so I think overall it just felt like I didn't quite want the brand new. And I wanted this car is not raw by any means. It's very comfortable.
Yeah.
But I like the hydraulic steering is really nice. I like the way that it feels. I like the way that it sounds. I didn't want something that was brand new.
Yeah. And as a daily, do you know where you're getting mileage-wise, how much a tank gets you?
It depends on how I drive. I don't think I've broken 20 miles per gallon. I'm probably the 16 to 18. I think it can get better, but I haven't been able to make it better.
Yeah. And big question because I know a lot of guys who have the F80 and even the E90 M3s. Did you test drive and take a look at those?
I drove a friend's F80 before I got this, and I thought about it for about a minute, and I just felt like it was a little bit boring. The M3 is a great car, but it's always sort of been a sedan that's been made to go faster and turn better.
Yeah.
And I want something that's more of a sports car. I want something that, when I get into it, it has a little bit more of a sense of occasion. And the F80 is just a little bit bland. And the exhaust doesn't sound great. It's just wasn't for me. It just wasn't very exciting. It's really quick.
Yeah.
But if I wanted really quick, I also could have gotten a 997 turbo.
Right.
So I wasn't really looking for that fast. The F80 just wasn't really any of the things that I was looking for.
Yeah. So what are your 3 favorite things about this car? Like what, the F80 didn't have the things you were looking for. So what were the things you were looking for or felt in this car that you were like, I want a 997 GTS?
The sound is really killer. I love the sound of the flat six. I think the water-cooled cars all sound really great. Water-cooled, naturally aspirated cars all sound really great. And this car isn't any exception. Even stock, it sounds really good with the sport exhaust. And I think that with exhaust mods, it'll just sound really great, like just fantastic. I love the wide body on this car, which is kind of why I went for it over just a C2S.
Right.
The wide body with rear wheel drive is, I think, just a really cool combo. And it's just really great to drive. It just feels really good. I think the hydraulic steering in this was a big reason why I picked it over an F80 or a 991. And the steering it feels really good. Everything about this car just feels great to drive. That's kind of what I think Porsche's brand is, that when you drive one, it feels great. And I think this car, everything together, it just feels really wonderful to drive. I look forward to it.
So Porsche should take BMW's slogan and say they're the ultimate driving machine.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't think it's made sense for a long time for BMW. But I think that Porsche's "there is no substitute" slogan is equally compelling.
Yeah, definitely. If you had, I don't know what parts for this car cost, but let's say you had 10 grand, but relative to like a Miata, so like unlimited budget.
That's a lot.
What would you do to this car to somehow make it better? 'Cause handles great, exhaust would just be enough. What else could it need?
Honestly, I'm not sure if there's 10 grand worth of stuff I would do to it. Stock, it's a really great car. The things that are on my list are the exhaust. It needs to be a little louder. It needs to have a little bit better crackle. I kind of want to lower it, and I think new wheels would be in there for sure. I love the wheels that are on here, but there are some really, really just phenomenal BBS center lock wheels that if I had that budget, I would totally buy.
Yeah. And do you know what tires you're running on here?
Right now they're Michelin Pilot Super Sports. I actually just swapped over to them.
Nice. What do you think?
They're great. This car came with, what did it come with? They were the Bridgestone Potenza SO4s, which are also an okay tire.
Yeah.
And these tires just feel, they're a little bit quieter. They're a lot softer and more comfortable. And for a daily driver, it's just the Pilot Super Sports really deliver. They're great up in the mountains, but they're also just really phenomenal when I'm driving home on 280.
Yeah. This car is like, what's done to it and what can you do to it? And it's not much. Like it's just a perfect package car.
It's really good. It's like almost unfortunate just how good this car is. Because like you kind of want a car that you can like tinker with, and that's I think one of the biggest things when I bought this car is I've started shopping for an old car to play with. And so the kind of nice thing about this car is that it's great. Like there's nothing that I really like I'm desperate to do to it.
Right.
And so then I can it's a great car to drive on a regular basis. It's reliable. It's not costing me, an arm and a leg every weekend when something fails.
Yeah.
So now I kind of want to, that 10 grand I might use to go buy like an old 2002 or a 510 or something sort of weird and old that would be really fun to really mod.
Yeah.
And then I have my NA track car, which isn't so much of a money pit these days, but can be.
So if you had to sell this car and take the money and put it towards another car, what would you get?
Well, that's a really hard question. I've had a tendency the last couple of years to buy cars pretty frequently, and this is the first one that I have a really hard time seeing myself selling. If I were to get something else, if someone forced me to, I think I would consider a 6-speed R8.
Okay.
I feel like a 997 GT3 would be really interesting to own for a little while.
Yeah.
Or maybe an F430 if I could find a really great F1. These cars are a little bit of a stretch. And so that's sort of like, I think in this price range, it's hard to find anything that I would really want, which is part of why I think I ended up with this.
Yeah.
but you know, maybe in a few years I'll get lucky and Ferrari or R8 might be in the cards.
Yeah. And what is the story behind the license plate? Did you get that with this car, or is that like your plate?
I got that with my 996, and then when I blew that up, I moved it to my ND, which people made fun of me for. But I think the Miata is appropriate. Don't lift takes a different meaning in a Miata than it does in Porsche. It's more you never have to lift versus don't do it.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have it back on a 911. I'm a very scared driver. I have a tendency to get freaked out very easily.
Okay.
And so it's sort of like reminding myself, don't lift, don't get too scared. Actually have some confidence in what you're doing and driving.
Yeah. What are your favorite tracks that you've been to?
Around Laguna Seca, hands down, is my absolute favorite. In the NA, that track is just so much fun because you really are like you're foot down almost the entire way around the track.
Yeah.
And in the NA, there's no power steering, there's no traction control, I don't have ABS.
Right.
And so it's just an absolute blast to drive that car around Laguna Seca. Thunder Hill is maybe a second, especially the new track. The old one's a little bit fast for the Miata, and it's the straights aren't as much fun.
Right.
But Laguna Seca by far is my favorite. It's just so much fun.
Before you bought this, if you were watching this video, what would you care to know that would convince you, like, yeah, GTS is probably a good buy?
It's actually, a lot of people have been asking, is the GTS, on the forums lately, is a GTS worth the premium over a C2S? And I think that's sort of a fair question. A GTS is, in these days, the 997.2 manual market is pretty hot. But the GTS is probably a good 10 to 15 grand more than a CTS, depending on the deal you can get. These days especially, they're selling real quick. And so I think that's a really good question, is like, is it worth spending that extra money on this? And it's hard to say. For me, I think it's worth it. The wide body looks great. Every time I walk up to it, I'm like, this car is just so great looking. Yeah. But you can get that in a C4S. So if you're okay with all-wheel drive, that car's a little bit less and is probably a better buy. I really wanted rear-wheel drive. And the C2S is a really great car, but I think that the narrow body just doesn't look quite as good as the 997. I think they really just delivered a really great design with this car. And to me, that's worth it.
Okay, so that's like that was like the one, like, even though it's not premium, like I'll do it for the body sign. Yeah. But you can't buy a C2S and make it a wide body.
Exactly.
And look this good. Yeah. Like you could do like a show car, like custom built, but that's not crazy. A Porsche thing.
Yeah, and it's expensive. You'll spend way more money on it.
Yeah, you'll spend way more than 15 grand.
The actual like features of this car, the sport exhaust is standard, which is nice. And it does have a little bit of a power bump. I think it's like 15 or 20 horsepower. Yeah. I don't think anyone can tell the difference. So I think it's really about the body on this car. And if you don't care about it, then I'd say it's probably not worth it.
Yeah. And what was the story behind getting this car? Because it's not like you just go to dealers and like Craigslist and there's like, these cars don't just sit. Yeah. You know, like not most other like cars of this caliber, but this is not an easy to find car.
Yeah, GTSs in particular have gotten really, really hard to find. I had a few cars that I found online. I had a car that I was trying to get that was like in Indiana or something. Yeah. And a car that was in Southern California. And both of those cars sold before I could get inspections scheduled. And they just, every single one that I called was selling really fast. This car I found, I was trolling Renlist as usual, which I still do even though that I have a car now. And there was a thread for a car that was almost identical except for it was PDK. And every single comment on the thread was, man, if this was a 6-speed, I would buy it. Yeah. And then this guy posted that he had a 6-speed he was thinking about selling, and he was going to wait for this car to sell to see how much he should sell his for. Yeah. And so I looked him up, and it turned out he lived in Walnut Creek, and so I sent him a private message that said, hey, will you sell me your car? And he said, sure. And so it was nice. I bought the car from him. It was like very low pressure since it wasn't listed anywhere. Yeah. And so we took it a little bit slow. I got it inspected, and it was a really great buying experience. Nice. I've never bought a car like that before, so it was just really cool.
Yeah. So you totally recommend the GTS if someone's in the market for an all-in-one package?
Yeah, it does everything. There's very little you could want to mod on this car. Some people like to get rid of the center locks, which I think is a totally reasonable thing to do if you like want to drive the car a lot. It's a little bit scary to drive this car and realize that if I got a flat somewhere on the 5, I'd have to get it towed all the way to like LA or back to San Francisco. Yeah. Because there's just no one who can even take the wheels off. Right. But it's hard to find tires in the sizes for this car anyway, so it's not that big of a deal.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for sharing your GTS on this episode of Answered. Hopefully the Porsche guys who watched this learned a little bit. If you own a Porsche and you have any other questions or you have comments, definitely leave them down below. And I'll see you guys next Tuesday for another video. Make sure to subscribe.
Bye.